Secretary. Welcome to the first of our reflections for Holy Week. Can I ask you, if you've got your Bibles handy, to turn to Luke chapter 22, and I'll be reading from verses 39 to 53. Luke 22, 39 to 53. Jesus went out as usual to the Mount of Olives, and his disciples followed him. On reaching the place, he said to them, "Pray that you will not fall into temptation." He withdrew about a stone's throw beyond them, knelt down and prayed, "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me, yet not my will, but yours be done." An angel from heaven appeared to him and strengthened him. And being in anguish, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat was like drops of blood falling to the ground. When he rose from prayer and went back to the disciples, he found them asleep, exhausted from sorrow. "Why are you sleeping?" he asked them. "Get up and pray, so that you will not fall into temptation." While he was still speaking, a crowd came up, and a man who was called Judas, one of the 12, was leading them. He approached Jesus to kiss him, but Jesus asked him, "Judas, are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss?" When Jesus' followers saw what was going to happen, they said, "Lord, should we strike with our swords?" And one of them struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his right ear. But Jesus answered, "No more of this." And he touched the man's ear and healed him. Then Jesus said to the chief priests, the officers of the temple guard, and the elders who had come for him, "Am I leading a rebellion, that you have come with swords and clubs? Every day I was with you in the temple court, and you did not lay a hand on me. But this is your hour when darkness reigns." So that reading is telling us about the arrest of Jesus. And of course, we, with hindsight, know what's going to happen. And in verse 52, Jesus makes it really clear that he's not a rebel. He says, "Am I a rebel? Am I leading a rebellion that you have come at me with swords?" Jesus knew he was to die. Of course he did, to save all of us, to fulfill what had been foretold. But he also knew that at the time, if rebel leaders were rounded up, then they were rounded up with the people around them, their associates, and the rebel leaders and the associates would be captured, tortured, and killed. That would not fulfill what was needed. That would not fulfill what Jesus was here to do. That wasn't his vocation or his calling. So he didn't want that to happen to Peter and the others. So what does Jesus tell them to do? Well, he constantly tells them to pray. In just those few verses, we hear the word prayer mentioned 3 times. Jesus tells his followers to pray that they will not be facing temptation and a time of trial. And then in verse 44, we hear of Jesus praying. His sweat was like drops of blood. This is not only the physical pain that Jesus was going through, but also the spiritual torture, the spiritual pain of knowing that he was about to enter into a period of darkness, a period where he would feel that he had been forsaken by God himself. For Jesus, the horror of what he was facing had him in spiritual as well as physical anguish. How great a sacrifice. The darkest day is coming. We are approaching it now in Holy Week. And we're still sad, even in the full knowledge of what we know about Resurrection Sunday. We see here Jesus anticipating physical and spiritual trials. So how do we find strength and resilience in the face of our own physical trials? And as we read a passage like the arrest of Jesus, how do we explore the agony that Jesus must have felt as he was facing that period of forsakenness and separation from God and darkness?